Find a place to post.
Yeah, Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren.
Kylo lit.
He was good in the movie.
Hey man, Kylo Ren is every bro. He is like. I'm not saying he's putting this new trilogy on, but man, we you would think like though it's not going to get much better than Darth Vader. Like, how are we going to replace that? This man Kylo Ren is just
He's as a character, he's surpassed him at this point, which is
Yeah, I mean
pretty mind
what?
blowing.
Darth Vader really just had intimidation factor more than
Yeah, I see. I see what you mean. If you're talking about just in terms of like the original
the
trilogy,
original. Yeah.
as in terms of as a character, yes, he's surpassed him.
After the new one, yeah. But it's just like wow, man.
All right, let me.
But in terms of clout, nobody would
No,
have as
he
much
didn't have
clout
the
as.
he didn't have the presence at all.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just a different type of.
yeah.
So, but I guess I got started. So, what I was going to say about Naruto's character is, Ed also brought up the point that he, like him wanting to be a Hokage overall in the story, it's more of like a means to an end. It's not necessarily that he wants to be Hokage. It's more that he wants to be like accepted and acknowledged by people around him, and like
Yes.
a sense of understanding is more like, and he sees Hokage as a person everybody like respects and
Yeah.
acknowledges, and he feels like he doesn't, get that from anybody around him, and that's why he cries in the first chapter when Aruka acknowledges him or whatever, because that's
Yeah.
really what he's trying to do. It's not necessarily that he wants to be Hokage literally; he just wants the
Yeah.
treatment that a Hokage receives, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and what I noticed is that basically like Naruto's character, he wants those three things. He wants to be acknowledged, he wants to be accepted, and he wants like understanding as a character. And so around the end of the pain arc, he basically like he achieved that goal of where everybody kind of acknowledges him at that point. He saved the village in front of everyone. He did something nobody else in the village could do. So he had that clout of being like one of the top ninjas, if not the top ninja in the village at that point. So all he has left after that point, like his arc is he pretty much achieved his goal. He isn't literally Hokage, but at that point, once he defeats Pain, he achieved the two out of the three things that he wants as a character. And all he has
Yeah.
left is the understanding part. And at that point, since he got close to Sasuke, he basically he became fixated on the idea that like Sasuke is really the only other person who understands him. So as a
Yes.
character, he can't really complete that goal that he wanted as a kid unless he has this like connection, unless he comes to peace with Sasuke. Because like Sasuke is the only one who understands him, and one of the things he wanted as a kid was like that understanding. So basically, at that point, he has to make some kind of peace with Sasuke. So like when people complain about like him chasing after Sasuke and not wanting to become Hokage at the end unless he can get Sasuke, it's really because that was never really his goal completely. Like his psychologically his goal was to reach like understanding and acceptance, and he feels like he can only get understanding from Sasuke. So once he gets acceptance, he still needs that understanding, and Sasuke is the only person who can give it to him. So if you look at it that way, it really, really makes perfect sense why he would react the way he reacted, even though people didn't like it. And they, like there was that backlash from people who read Naruto. Like, well, he can be Hokage now. Why does he even care about Sasuke? Why is he still chasing after Sasuke? It's because he
Yeah.
really, like, literally that he says that's his goal, and if you take it literally, that's his goal. But it's not. His goal is more of an abstract psychological goal. It's more of an emotional thing that he was after in becoming Hokage. So that's what I was trying to like point out. And when you brought that up, I never thought about Naruto that deeply as a character. Like that's really what he was trying to achieve. But
Yeah.
it makes more sense to me that way. So I wanted to know what people thought about that. If you look at the
I'm not.
character
I'm not.
from
I'm not
that way.
sure if I can't say whether or not Kishi did that like subconsciously or consciously. I'm not sure what was going through his head, but I do think it makes perfect sense I do. I never thought about it in like specifically the way you put it, and it makes a lot of sense the way you put it. And like he was chasing Sasuke because he's the only person that really understood him.
Mhm.
I always thought of it as in the reason why he kept chasing Sasuke is because of what he kept saying is that he couldn't really be Hokage if he can't even get one of who he felt his closest friend back. If he couldn't get him back, how can he just be Hokage? And a Hokage is supposed to be able. He felt a Hokage is supposed to be able to do this. And if I can't do this, how can I accept that role? And that's how I always looked at it. But the way you looked at it makes a little bit more sense for his character. I never thought about it like specifically like that, especially in terms of him chasing. Maybe in part one, the Sasuke retrieval, but I never
Mhm.
thought about it like that in part two, of him after the pain arc, kind of achieving everything he had to achieve except for that understanding. And Sasuke really is the only person that understands what he's dealing with. Other
Mhm.
than Gara, Gara understands kind of as well,
Yeah.
but he has that special connection with Sasuke. But yeah, I never thought about it, and I don't know if Kishi, saying that Kishi like did
Yeah.
that consciously. I'm not sure. But I think it's a really good point and something I never thought about specifically like that.
Yeah. And I think the difference between Naruto and Luffy is like, and what I was saying about One Piece, where it's like I don't think Oda always handles like themes as well as Kishi
Yeah,
does in Naruto. Like I think he handles plot better, but in terms of
yeah,
themes, like when Luffy says like it took hundreds of chapters for us to find out like Luffy why Luffy wants to be Pirate King, and when he says like I want the freedom of being Pirate King, we don't
yeah,
really know like why Luffy wants that or like what that means to him at all. Like it's like what does freedom mean to Luffy? Like why did Luffy want freedom? Like it's just very vague. It's just like he just says it and like what exactly does that mean to him as a character? But the characters in Naruto like it's a lot more like clear and concrete and like thematically laid throughout the story and why Naruto feels the way he feels, why he believes the
yeah,
things he believes, why he's attached to the ideas he's attached to, and things like
yeah.
that. So I just wanted to point that
Yeah,
out. So,
and because one more thing before Andre and Ibrahima go, people always said that people always made the complaint that Naruto is they don't like the direction his character took in part
mhm,
two because they feel like he was the underdog, he was a hard worker, and they kind of and Kishimoto kind of dropped those themes. But for me, I never thought that portray Naruto as a physical underdog or a physical extremely hard worker. I thought he was a social underdog. And I thought he was chasing Hokage not because he was the hardest working ninja. He was chasing Hokage because he was always
It
looked
was
down
like
upon.
it was like his
Yeah,
little
he was
hidden
that social
acceptance or something.
outcast. Yeah, so like I don't. Yeah, I think people confused like when they said this man like he didn't have to work for any he didn't have to work for anything anymore. He was a child
Prophecy.
of prophecy and everything. I think people confuse him being a social outcast and a physical underdog because I don't think Kishimoto ever really tried to portray him as a physical underdog. I mean, he wasn't the greatest ninja, but he also wasn't the wackest either. Like he was just kind of like he just didn't focus enough. But I didn't think he tried to portray him as like Rock Lee. Like Rock Lee is obviously an underdog. Uh, I think Naruto was a little bit different.
in terms of like the fighting. All right. Well,
Yeah.
I guess the question is then like, um, do you think Naruto's characters is like ha- handled well? I guess in the series, and do you think it makes sense to like Andre and Prima? If you
Um,
didn't hear what I said.
yeah. Naruto, the characters, I think the only real misstep Kishimoto made with his character is the pain invasion after the pain invasion. Because your whole thing about him, like he wants Sasuke, like Sasuke feels like Sasuke's the only one that understands him or him
Mm,
under it. To me, I think that is a good point, but I think back to the whole Leaf Village invasion, whereas though he gets that understanding with Gara, like you have someone that's in your specific situation. Y'all both are Jinchurikis. Y'all both are pariahs to your village. It's just you gained friends and he didn't. So to me, I would think like he's more like God would be more of the person that Naruto kind of want to relate to more, especially when you look back in the Kazekage rescue arc where he's like, when he hears Gaara's become the Kazekage, and he's like, oh snap, like he's become it. A guy that was in my shoes has become it for me. So you would think that would push him further into being like, hey, maybe I'll be
I
okay.
think in terms of like having a Jinchuriki, you can relate to that like more than anyone else because they both like grew up in that way and sort of like being ostracized for it. But I think what Naruto focuses on is like the lack of having like a family growing up. And Gaara did have like siblings, and he did have like the woman who took care of him, like and stuff like that, like a mother. Whereas like Naruto grew up kind of like alone, and Sasuke grew up alone. I think that's what he's focusing on as far as like relating to him.
And
Like Gaara
Sasuke,
did have a character. He did like have that woman taking care of him, even though it didn't work out. He like killed her at the end. So
and Sasuke understands Naruto as well. And even going back in the beginning of the story, when Sasuke has that conversation with Sakura, and he tells Sakura, "How could you ever understand how it feels to be alone?" Because so they both have that like mutual understanding of being alone, especially as children.
or at least
So I think
Naruto
it's a good point.
feels that way as a character. Like
Yeah,
whether or not Gaara is more of like he is more of a parallel to Naruto. Like Naruto definitely feels like Sasuke is the only one who can like they have like a connection and they grew up in the same village and he feels like they went through all the same things. So
yeah, but even that is because like 7 years Sasuke did have a family. Like he had a loving brother, he had a loving mother, he had a dad that was just hard. And then even then, Naruto never had that. And then if you even go for the point of Sasuke and Naruto at the same age when Sasuke loses his parents, Sasuke wasn't a pariah. He wasn't like ostracized from the village. He was just a kid like, yo, his family got murdered by his brother. Like it wasn't like they were treating Sasuke bad. And there was prejudice against him. They were prejudiced against Naruto his entire life. So to me, the whole like I really never really thought they related that much because Sasuke actually knew what a family was. To me, it isn't until Naruto lost Jiraiya where Naruto kind of understood like this is what Sasuke's feeling because he's lost something. Like Naruto never experienced that type of loss before. So it isn't until that point where I think your point actually hits home. It's just my opinion.
Okay. What do you think, Ibrahim?
Regarding how Naruto's character is handled in general, Naruto is a character that he represents the theme of his entire story, and I think I do have issues with Naruto, the character, but it's never one of those things where I don't think there's ever moments off the top of my head now where he does things where I'm like, that's just not a moment that doesn't make sense for him. Like, I don't think I don't like my issues with him aren't things where it's like it's I'm telling myself that his character won't act that way. So, even like his naivety and that type of thing that
It's
I'm
more
not like a fan of. Really?
Yeah, like there are things that I don't particularly like the character, but I think it's pretty consistent with what's established
so like
and the way he was developed and stuff.
So like things that I personally wasn't all that into, besides the whole thing of like turning him into a messianic figure towards the end of the series. That was a little unsettling and a bit just a bit like
the chakra folks.
But it is what it is. But even though that chakra thing was corny, but another thing that I just kind of thought about was that I feel like there's a point in the fourth grade Ninja War where Kishimoto, I feel like usually he writes things like most good mangaka do, writing out your chapter to chapter stuff with the mindset that this is all just like a part of a bigger story rather than it being a kind of a serialized like get me from week to week thing. What I mean by this is that there was a certain span and stretch in the story where like every couple chapters Naruto was kind of motivating and rallying the troops in a kind of like resolved John Cena speech to everybody. And it's
Mhm.
like when you take into account that this is a war and that the events of a chapter, like maybe 3 chapters prior, was probably a few minutes prior to this, it really makes the whole thing kind of ridiculous that, like, when you really think about in the midst of a war, characters like giving up hope or dying or whatever, it may be, and then Naruto's just rallying everybody and motivating and everyone, getting everybody on the same page, and it's like Naruto's the one who spurs that on, and then he has to do the exact same thing, like 5, 6 chapters later. It's a little ridiculous. But things like that, and things about how what they made him to represent towards the end are kind of my issues with him. But in terms of his own character motivations and his goals and the way he acts, those aren't um, those. They're not things where it's like it completely went back on who he was, um, and him no longer
Yeah.
being an. Like, I used to have an issue with the whole Naruto not being an underdog thing. What I'll say about that is this. Um, that whole thing came full circle at the end of the Pain Invasion when he got accepted by Konoha for good, and he saved all everybody.
Yeah.
Um, so I do think the series going after that point loses a little bit because of that, because that's kind of one of those things that made it really intriguing to follow Naruto the character because um, finishing off with that, it's now more of a what can Naruto now become moving forward from this? Now that this man is somebody who seemingly surpassed Jiraiya, and the Akatsuki lost their leader. What's going to happen now? What are we about to find out? And what's the deal now? Instead of a come up story. So I think something was lost there. Uh, um, but
Yeah.
yeah, I guess those are just my surface
Right.
feelings
Well,
on
overall,
that.
we'll start with Andre. Who do you think was handled better between Sasuke and Naruto's character throughout the series?
Um,
Oh, I have an easy answer for that.
And why?
I would say Sasuke most likely. I think you touched on this when you first were speaking. Like Naruto does achieve half of his goal during the pain invasion. Like he's acknowledged by everyone. Like everyone's championing him. Everyone's celebrating that he saved the village. He defeated pain. And at that point, given the whole speech with Nagato, the whole conversation, you would think like the next step would for Naruto would be like, okay, let me dive into the political aspect of what a Hokage is and what a Hokage actually represents. Because this was like kind of like the first arc where he didn't really concentrate on what Sasuke was doing. And
Yeah.
and it was just like, okay, now he's getting to grow into that role into being Hokage. Sasuke is like he always had his clear objective. Like I'm going to, kill my brother by first is by enemies necessary. Then he understood like I don't really need Orochimaru to take over my body to get that. Like, I can just train under him, and then like everything for Sasuke was always just a stepping stone to that goal. Even his team. So Sasuke just seemed a little bit more consistent when it came to his writing, just from a goal standpoint. Naruto is just like I just don't understand him taking an ass whooping for Sasuke. I never understood that, especially given everything that was going on in the village. Like your village is being rebuilt. Tsunade is not the Hokage anymore. This guy Danzo is the Hokage. Like you should be more worried about that, but more you're just worried about like y'all should forgive Sasuke. Like he did attack your master, joined the terrorist group, but please just forgive him. It's just like and it's also like Naruto is always is his way or the highway. Like he never actually tries to listen to people. It's either his way or the highway.
Yeah. I, Edelson.
That's a hard. I think they're both handled. I think they're both handled really well. If I had to choose, if I had to choose, I would say that man. I think that Naruto, the premise of Naruto's character is a little bit more interesting, is a
Mm,
little bit more deep. Um, but how they're handled throughout the whole story as a whole, I think, like what Andre said, I think Sasuke is a little bit more consistent. All the decisions he makes, are for his goal. Is straightforward. You, he's not really wavering that much on ultimately what his goal is. And I think that Sasuke, especially after he like finally beats Itachi,
yeah,
I think that his character becomes really, really interesting. Because after that, I think and he finally takes that deep breath.
yeah,
He's kind of lost, and then his target is kind of moving. Like you don't know where it's going next. He's kind of conflicted. He starts to learn the truth about Itachi. Then his whole world is thrown upside down. And
yeah,
then he talks to the Hokages, and then he kind of has to make his own after learning what he already knows, then learning about what the Hokages told him. He kind of has to make his own decision, and then his ultimate decision about being like the sole only leader of the world, taking on everybody else's pain, everybody hating him, so that they can band together, and that being his resolution for creating peace. I think is
yeah. He
like
was
he
forced.
thinks,
Yeah, he was kind of
yeah,
forced
like
to do a lot more soul searching and mature a lot more.
yeah, like how deep do you have to go in your mind to get to that level of literally being hated to create peace?
Yeah, because like he learns more
Like
truth.
Yeah,
yeah, like that's so crazy. I mean, in Naruto, Naruto's always going to be at this point. Naruto's going to be the optimistic, try to be the voice of reason. But the Sasuke thinking on that level, I think is just like way over Naruto's head. Like Naruto isn't even like going there. And I know I argue with you guys about Naruto doesn't have to have an answer, but the fact that Sasuke did have an answer for me puts him above Naruto just a little bit. Um, because he's always I feel like Sasuke is always thinking just on
all
another
right,
level.
all right, Ibrahim, are you still there?
I don't think so.
Yeah, he fell asleep. He's out.
Yeah,
He's out.
yeah. Well, I'm trying. I want to keep it under 30 minutes. So,
But what you said
interesting.
about Luffy? What you said about Luffy?
Yeah,
With him wanting to be Pirate King because of freedom, because he
mm,
wants to be free.
yeah. What does that mean?
I always thought, especially in the Luffy flashback, I always portray, and I know he said that that's the reason why he wants to be Pirate King because the Pirate King is the freest man in the world. I always thought though, because of his flashback, that he wanted to be Pirate King and he wanted to be a pirate, and the reason why he wants to gather people for his crew and everything
So he's
is
not
because
alone.
because he never wants to be alone. And that's what I thought. Because for me, I know people hate the idea of the One Piece being like a metaphor for just like the journey.
Yeah,
At the end, when we get to One Piece, it's nothing. It's just the
hmm,
journey
yeah,
and the progress of getting there. But I don't really care what the One Piece is,
yeah. It's like a MacGuffin or whatever.
and I
It's not.
don't. Yeah, and I don't really see what the point of being Pirate King. We really don't know what that ultimately means. But
Yeah,
I
my
do think
point
that
wasn't.
Luffy,
Yeah, it's a vague
yeah,
title, but my point is like
yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
what it means to Luffy himself. Like, why is he
yeah,
chasing after it? I thought
yeah,
it
and
was
you're
a
right.
Shanks thing. I thought it was just to be like Shanks and to understand Shanks
Yeah,
better. and to prove himself to Shanks. But he apparently there's like a belief that he has like, oh, I get to be like very free because of it.
Yeah,
And I don't know what freedom means to Luffy exactly, or why that's
yeah.
important to him. Because I mean, it's not like he wasn't free when he was a kid. He had no parents. Like he just did what he
Yeah.
wanted. So
I just always thought it was just about. I
yeah,
just thought he just always wanted to have people around him. Like he doesn't want to be alone.
yeah, I definitely think that's why like motivation for his actions with like his crew and stuff like that.
Yeah, I
But
think it's motivation for going on the
yeah,
journey.
yeah,
I don't know. I though I understand what you're saying. We really don't know what being free means to Luffy. I mean, maybe personality. He never wants to be like held down. You know, he's
yeah,
kind of like he's a wild, like robust. Like he's not he's not
yeah.
the type of guy that's like following rules, staying in line, doing what people tells him to do.
Yeah, like I
So I
said, like
guess I mean
yeah,
it's just
he kind of is free in the way he lives his life already.
yeah
So like it's
yeah
different from Naruto. Where Naruto like wasn't acknowledged, and him being overrated would give him that kind of like acknowledgement from other people. It's like
yeah
what is Luffy lacking that being Pirate King is gonna like achieve to
yeah
him?
because that is
That's
true.
kind of what.
He is kind of living a free life right now. I mean, nothing's really.
Yeah. So I don't really get what he means by that.
But Andre, do you have a
Uh,
for Luffy?
I never even like looked at Luffy that type of like that deep, to be honest, which is like it always just seems so simple to me.
Yeah,
Like like to me, what I thought freedom meant to him was just being able to do whatever you want. And if that's the case, you've already accomplished that.
Yeah.
Now it's just like to me his true goal is always just meeting up back with Shanks and giving him the hat back. Like
right,
and then also the journey is the true goal. Like
right.
that's what I thought like what One Piece was all about. Like this whole
The,
One Piece the treasure. I don't know what it
yeah,
would like. What would it actually do for him?
Yeah. He doesn't really
yeah.
need it.
The One Piece is a hat, bro. It's the straw hat. I'm calling it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
It's gonna be about the journey, bro. People are gonna be pissed. Watch. You think open the treasure and it's gonna be nothing.
yeah, or it's just like the
There's
hat.
not because you know why I think that though. Mainly though, because I don't think there's anything Oda, and I think Oda knows this. What can he possibly make it that
Oh,
fans would be satisfied with? There's
Yeah,
nothing there's nothing he can put in that treasure to make fans satisfied with what's in it. For making
yeah.
them wait 20, 30, 40, however long he makes us wait. There's nothing that can be in that treasure that can be satisfying enough.
There are things that could be disappointing. I don't know. There are
Yeah, I
things that
mean
could be more
everything.
disappointing than others. Like, but I mean, maybe it's devil fruit seeds or something like a tree seed. But I don't know. He said in an interview that it's a physical thing. It is a
yeah. He said it's
physical
a physical reward. He
Yeah,
did say that.
thing.
it's the shot.
Yeah. I don't know.
Watch.
But I think there are like subtle things to Luffy's character. I just don't think Luffy has like Oda dives into it as much. I guess.
Yeah, and I mean whether it's a plus or a minus depending on what you like. I don't think I would like him. I would like him to, obviously, but if he doesn't, um, I don't think it necessarily hurts Luffy's character. But I do wish that Luffy. I wish that Luffy would start. I'm not saying I don't need him to be. Yeah, I am
I
saying
think with
actually.
One Piece
I wish
he's
he was
going.
harder on his crewmates.
I think with One Piece Oda wants the characters to be entertaining more than anything else. Like I think
Yeah,
more than like profound or like have like themes to them, or, like have a philosophy, be like deep characters. He wants them to be like really He wants them to be unique and entertaining,
Yeah,
and everything else is like secondary. But he
because
wanted,
like okay,
oh, because the Sanji thing, he wanted to try.
yeah, and I'm going to the Sanji thing because, and I remember somebody said, I forget who said it, but somebody said if Zoro was there, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I remember.
If
Yeah,
Zoro
that's
was,
that. Yeah.
yeah, okay, and see, okay, you said okay, and I think that's an issue, especially when we're past the time skip. I think that's a problem. I think we shouldn't have to be say if Zoro was here, this wouldn't happen. Zoro already had this conversation with Luffy. Zoro already told Luffy that you have to start getting more serious. This is a new world. So I think we don't need Zoro to be here anymore for there to be repercussions for somebody going crazy on Luffy. I know Sanji did it. I understand, and I understand why Sanji did it. I don't have a problem with Sanji doing it. I just thought Luffy should have been more serious about Sanji doing that to him.
I mean, Sanji shouldn't have done it. It didn't really make sense.
Yeah, like Luffy
Yeah, but
doesn't.
I understand. But I understand why. I understand why. I didn't think it was ridiculous
Why
that Sanji
why
did
did
it.
he trust Luffy and everybody else? And why did he trust Big Mom? Like she was gonna keep her word. He's a pirate. Like why would he be so naive? Like, oh okay, they're just gonna go along with it and like, give me what I want and let Luffy go. Nothing bad's gonna happen.
Mm,
And I gotta lie to Luffy.
yeah, I'm.
I can't trust Luffy enough to just tell him what it is. Like it was a little.
Yeah, and even if he felt like he had to do what he had to do, I said Luffy. They should have had a conversation. Like I understand, like even like that. Even if he said that, like I understand, Sanji, that you were scared. I understand that you probably felt like this was your only choice, but you have to trust me. And like them not having any kind of like everything's okay. Like I just
Yeah, because Luffy doesn't
I
really
feel like
show qualities of like what I think a captain should.
yeah,
Like you like
and I get yeah
this all stems from the Usopp thing. Like, it all stems from like that was really the true moment where Luffy was a captain. He got
Yeah,
like
yeah.
lesson.
yeah
He
that
got a
was so
lesson.
perfect.
He got a lesson of what a captain should be from Zoro. Like this is what when he said it's heavy. Well, that's what you got to do. Like you're the one that has to make the decision. You can't
Yeah,
falter because if you falter, who are we supposed to be truly
you're right.
standing behind? And in Sanji's case, it's just like Sanji didn't trust the situation in no one's hands. Like he didn't trust it in Luffy's in
Yeah,
nobody's hands. And like Luffy, you have to address it. Like even though Nami, she was like, I'm not gonna forget this, Sanji. When he finally like came to assistance,
Yeah.
she like, I'm not gonna forget this. But if you be Luffy at a certain like it may or may not happen, but if like in the future, Luffy should be like, yo, I can't allow that shit to slide no more. Just know that. And if Luffy does it, then all this would kind of be fixed. But like Luffy, he doesn't really like, and maybe that's just because like he wants his crewmates to experience the freedom that he wants to expect. But to me, it's like you're not really showing qualities of a captain, to be honest.
I feel like he should put his foot down. He's more like he shouldn't. He should have more rules, I guess. That he,
Yeah, like because even when like he's done that with Usopp twice. So like when Usopp asked like Rayleigh, "What's the One Piece?" and he had to check him
yeah.
like, "Yo, what are you doing?" Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
he can only go to his house, I guess.
Yeah, he can only go to the Usopp. But nah, bro. Like the reason why that Water 7 thing was so perfect for me is because they were talking. There was conflict. They had two different ideals, and they were talking it out. So
And
like
I feel like,
Luffy and
and I
Usopp.
think Luffy and Sanji,
Yeah.
if Oda was trying to go for that same feel, he forgot the step where they talk. They have the different ideals, and they're talking to each other. And they had
I don't think there's a major
there's the corner of
discrepancy
the chapter. There's the
Between Luffy
chapter
and
where like
Sasuke though.
Luffy and Sasha.
no, he's not.
No, I don't think there's a major discrepancy or disagreement between Luffy and Sanji though. So it's not the exact same thing. But
No,
sorry,
but
I
no,
kind of
but I
I got what?
you're
Go
fine.
ahead.
No, I'm not saying I'm not. But like I think that they should have had Luffy should have talked to Sanji, and he has to make Sanji realize that I understand what you had to do. I understand that you're either scared or you feel like this was your only choice, but you have to trust when we come this far. You know, I mean we're 800 chapters in. You have to trust me. You have to trust the crew. There's no reason why.
What
There's no
what
reason why
suggests
you
that
can't trust
Sanji?
this.
What suggests that Sanji does not?
His actions.
Why? Why would he? You're gonna trust more in Big Mom not betraying you, and then your crew being able to help you out.
No, I think it's more of in Sanji's head. He thought um that him doing it the way he did would not put his crew in danger. So that's why he did what he did. That's just kind of
But,
ridiculous
but
thinking.
that's the naive, like that's just naive thinking because you guys have been in danger this entire time.
And
Mhm.
You
yeah, go ahead.
like you fought against Rob Lucci. You set the war the government flag on fire. You declared war. So you guys have been a number one target for those. You watched your captain punch the celestial dragon. So danger isn't something that should be new to Sanji. And
That
like
was that was what Vivi was trying to do in Alabasta when and Luffy was the one who told her like you'd be ridiculous, like you can't not put us in danger. Like us just being here with you is already putting us in danger. So you shouldn't even be like trying to protect us in that way. And Sanji didn't disagree with him or anything. So
and
Yeah,
like and like Sanji, like he should like he didn't even like before he left, he didn't even like let his friends really know the or like what he was going through. Like he didn't like he just like, yeah, all right, guys, and like they all had the feeling like, yeah, he's not coming back. And Luffy was just like, yeah, if he's not going to come back, say that to my face. And
Hmm.
and then Luffy addresses them, and then Luffy peeps like you are lying, but that that situation wouldn't happen in front of Zoro. Like if Zoro was there, you think Zoro would have let Sanji actually do that to Luffy?
No, that's a problem. That's
Because
a problem.
it's the whole thing. You are letting someone walk over you again.
I'm sorry. That's an issue. The fact that if Zoro's not there, we have to rely on Zoro to have some repercussions for going against the captain. That's an issue. At this point, well, Water Seven's fine because that's the first time it's ever happened. It was crazy. We didn't know what was happening. But at this point, no,
so
that's an issue for me.
you feel like Luffy should have developed more into an
Yes,
actual captain by this point in the
yes,
story.
and I'm saying, and people always take it as extreme, like that's not Luffy's personality. No, but like you don't have to change the character for him to develop. Just little things, like get a little bit more serious, get a little bit more. You learn, like you're learning through this journey. You're learning. You're gonna change a little bit. You know, Luffy should know. He should know when to turn it on. And yes, sometimes you're gonna have to turn it on with your best friends. Like you don't have to be. I'm not telling Luffy doesn't have to be freaking Ichigo standing on a building with his clothes blowing in the wind and a mean face. No, but he should know when to turn it on. Like, okay, hold on, let's talk about this. You have to trust me, and you can't be hitting me in public in front of all these people.
Yeah, like
you
you
can't
making
be
your
hitting me
captain look
like
like a
that,
chump in
man.
front. Making your captain look like a chump in front of people you
Yeah,
don't even like.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You can't just be swinging on me. That's like your kids hitting you, and yeah, you know what I mean. Like, nah, man, you can't just be kids going wild out here, especially in public. You gotta relax.
Yeah, I don't think it doesn't fit his personality because I mean it wasn't originally in his personality to like fight with Usopp like that, but he got to a point where
Right?
it
Yeah.
made sense. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It felt a little what like contrived the whole setup like just to get Luffy and Sanji to fight and like this whole Sanji like left the crew sort of drama.
Yeah.
It didn't really feel natural for where they should be at in the story at this point.
Yeah.
It's a little bit. It was a little bit forced just to create that whole like subplot. Like Sanji's gone, Sanji coming back or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and you know
But
when Sanji's not here. So what are you gonna say?
but I but I do think that I don't know if Oda's gonna elaborate any more on what freedom means to Luffy and how
Luffy's goals connect to his
I think he
character?
definitely
And
will since he brought it up. I think
you think he's going to? You think he's going to elaborate
yeah.
more?
And,
Okay.
and that's another like that also connects to like I think Wes said I think last week about like Oda doesn't really dive into like people individual with like the whole Fishman thing. Like he doesn't really give you what each straw had thought about race or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she hasn't done that with Luffy when it came to what does freedom actually mean to you. And you would think like after each arc, like Luffy would get a little bit uh, more insight, or like maybe like you'll see gradually learn like as each arc passes, there's more insight of what Luffy is actually thinking about when it comes to freedom, especially when you're dealing with stuff like race and like slavery and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Right.
Yeah. Because that's such an important thing to him, and it's supposed to be like a theme in the entire series. Like when there was a thread a while ago, people were like, "Oh, what are the themes in One Piece?" I like how Oda explores all these different themes, and I remember people like Peter are like, "Oh, I like the theme of freedom in One Piece. That's such a strong theme in One Piece." And I'm like, how does he even explore that? Like,
Right.
like it's they just say it a lot. Characters just say, "Oh, freedom is important," like and stuff like that. The only thing he really explores in any sort of like depth is like justice, I guess, and
Yeah.
like the way the government works. But everything else, like, it's just kind of characters saying the words, and you don't really get insight on what that means
I
to
mean,
characters.
I thought about this. Maybe he saw. I mean, I know they didn't delve in deeply, but maybe the Sabo thing as a young and seeing how what Sabo had to go through
Yeah,
wasn't it was the complete opposite. He wasn't free, and maybe
yeah.
Luffy never wants to be in that situation.
Freedom from like his burden of how he was born.
Yeah,
What,
yeah, like how like Sabo growing up as a royal, but
yeah,
like his parents were like terrible to him. He wasn't able to do whatever he wanted to do. Um, I don't know.
yeah. Luffy
I,
already
I
has that kind of freedom. So it's kind of
yeah, I don't know.
like, why would he want to achieve it? It'd be different if he was like, I want to give everyone else freedom as Fire King or something. But he said
Right.
he specifically wants to be free.
How much does he care about freedom? He fell asleep during a slavery
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. I mean,
But yeah,
I
I,
do like at least if he makes sure to emphasize that like Luffy is not this like magnanimous like holier like the now character like with like the hero thing where Luffy's like, oh, I'm not a hero, you know, like I don't really, even though his actions are usually heroic,
yeah,
but he doesn't
he's
specifically
a hero.
care. But he's not trying to do what like
Right.
for any sort of sense of justice. It's just like he's
Yeah.
doing what he feels is right based on his own
Yeah.
morality, not like what
Which just so
society tells
happens to
him is
be
right.
a
Yeah,
hero.
yeah. So I guess that's it. Um,
But
anything
yeah,
else?
Naruto's amazing.
Yeah, as a
We should
series
all
of
give
a
it a
character.
reread.
Yeah,
Both.
nah.
Both.
Um,
Well, a top five shonen.
like comments.